Shalom from Beit and thank you for joining me in the study of Parashat Vayechi. Parashat Vayechi is the last parsha in this incredible book of Sefer Bereshit, and I would like to talk to you about today the last request. The last request that Yosef asks his brothers, but also the last request that King David has from his own son, King Solomon. So let's start with Yosef. Yosef says to his brothers, Vayomer Yosef el Echav, Anochi met ve'elokim pakod yifkod etchem, ve'ela etchem min haaretz hazot el haaretz asher nishba leAvraham, leYitzchak uleYaakov. Yosef says to his brothers, I am about to die, and God will surely redeem you, and will bring you from Egypt to the land of Israel that he promised to Avram, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Vayashba Yosef et bnei Israel, he made them to take an oath, to take a swear. Le'emor pakod yifkod elokim etchem, God will surely redeem you. Ve'a'alitem et atzmotai mizeh, and you will bring my bones to the land of Israel. You will bury me in Israel. Vayamut Yosef ben 110 shanim. So Yosef died when he was 110. Vayachnetu oto vayisem ba'aron b'Mitzrayim. So they kept him somehow, they preserved him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. Now, there is something very interesting in this narrative. Yosef feels that he can ask his brothers to bury him in the land of Israel, and he mentions this interesting code of pakod ifkod. God will surely redeem you, which is wonderful. But we are more interested in something else, which is the brothers didn't carry Joseph's bones back to the land of Israel. It was not them. They were dead. We are talking about only after Exodus. That's years, hundreds of years after Joseph is already gone. So in a way, he makes his brothers to take an oath, to take his bones, but the brothers are not in a position to take this oath for their children. Their children were not even born then. Definitely not the generation that truly took Joseph's bones. How come Joseph creates such a commitment with a generation that was not born yet? That will be the first question. And the second question is, what does it mean, pakod ifkod? God will surely redeem you, or will surely remember you, and therefore he will save you. What is Yosef trying to say? Says Bechor Shor, Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor, a French commentator from the 13th century, says, Elokim, pakod ifkod Elokim, ולא השביע עליהם מיד, כמו שעשה יעקב לו, לפי שאין ספק בידם, or סיפק בידם. Which means, the Bechor Shor says, in order to understand Joseph's request, you should compare it to the first request in our parsha. There was someone else who asked to be buried in the land of Israel, was to Yaakov. And Yaakov, when he approached Joseph and he told him, I would like you to bury me and to take me to the land of Israel, it was now. And he made Joseph promise him at that moment. He didn't give him a speech, he just told him, look, I want you to bury me in the land of Israel. Why don't we have copy-paste between what Yaakov's request from Yosef, that Yosef will do the same thing to his brothers? Says the Bechor Shor, it's very simple. Yaakov knew that Yosef has the power to do it. He can take Yaakov right now, after Yaakov's death, back to the land of Israel. But Yosef knew his brothers. His brothers do not have the power to convince Pharaoh to allow it. They don't have the power to take Yosef immediately after his death to be buried in the land of Israel. Ein sipek biadam, they don't have the power. So Yosef understands that he will not be buried in the land of Israel now, but his burial in the land of Israel is intertwined with Exodus. And therefore, he says, I understand I am going to die here, and in a way I'm going to be buried here, but only for a while, until God will surely redeem you. And when he does, don't forget me. don't lose me again here in Egypt. Joseph says to his brothers, my burial is basically coincide with your redemption. And therefore, don't forget me. The Netziv in Ha'amek Davar understands this conversation between Yosef and his brothers in the following manner. And he says, Anuchi met ve'elokim pakod yifkod etchem. I'm going to die and God will surely redeem you or will remember you. Nichamam, he gave them comfort. Shlo yidagu b'moto al parnasa. They shouldn't be worried about food and sustenance after his death. ומי יכלכלם אחריו, ומשום הכי אמר, שהקדוש ברוך הוא יפקוד אותם בימי הגלות ויהיו נזכרים לפרנסם. So, according to the Netziv, Yosef says to his brothers, don't worry, God will take care of you, and not only that he will take care of you in terms of sustenance, he shall surely also redeem you from this land. Vayashba Yosef. So how come that Yosef made his brothers to take an oath when they were not even the ones to bring him to the land of Israel? Says the Netziv, באשר היו כמו משועבדים לו, לגמלו על הטוב שעשה עמהם. על כן היה מועיל מה שהשביעם בעל כורחם. גם לדורות מאוחרים, משום שכל הדורות מחויבים לגמול טובה ליוסף על זה שהיטיב לאביהם. The Netziv here brings an interesting idea that I think speaks to the core of relationships. Basically, Yosef says, hey brothers, you owe it to me. I am going to make you take an oath that you will not forget me here in Egypt. You will be gone and you will tell it to your children, and your children will tell them to their children, and to their children until we reach the generation of Exodus, and they will all remember that my bones needs to be carried from Egypt to the land of Israel. And if you ask me, why do I have the right to ask you for that? The answer is, you owe it to me. You need to show gratitude to what I did for you and for our father, Yaakov. In a way, in this very short explanation, the Netziv gives us a glimpse into redemption. Redemption is based, or at least one of the main factors or pillars of redemption is gratitude, is to be thankful. And without that, redemption will not move forward. By the way, we see the same thing later on with Moses, with Moshe. After the revelation of the burning bush, God says to Moshe, okay, go to Egypt and save the people. So you would expect that Moshe will go straight from the burning bush to Egypt. Instead, he's going to his father-in-law to tell him that he needs to go to Egypt. And many of the commentators ask the question, what do you mean? God told you to go and save the Jewish people. Why do you stop by your father-in-law? And one of the Midrashim suggested that Moshe said, yes, I know. I have a mission, but first I need to say thank you to my father-in-law for hosting me here. Even though, don't forget that Moshe saved Yitro's daughters, and that's how it all began. But still, Moshe felt that he needs to say thank you, he needs to show gratitude to his father-in-law, and only then to start the redemption. And that's in a way what Yosef says to the brothers. He says to them, look, I will make you promise me, and I will make you tell that story until that generation of Exodus, and you will carry my bones to the land of Israel as part of your gratitude to me. Rabbeinu Bachye suggested a different reading. And he says, Vayashba Yosef et Bnei Israel, the Pasuk says, and Joseph basically asked Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, to take an oath to take him from Egypt to Israel. Says Rabbeinu Bachye, היה כתוב ראוי לומר וישבע יוסף את אחיו. He says, it would be more appropriate to say, and Yosef told his brothers to take an oath. What does it mean, Bnei Israel? The children of Israel. אלא מלמד, but it's come to teach you. שהשביע לכל מישהו מבני ישראל ואפילו העתידים להיות. It comes to teach you that Joseph was talking to his brothers. But really, in his mind, in his vision, he was talking to Am Israel. He was talking to already the generation 200 years from then, 300 years from there. At the time of Exodus, he was talking to them. ולכך השתדל משה רבינו, שהעלה את עצמותיו וחשש לשבועתו של יוסף, שכתוב, ויקח משה את עצמות יוסף עמו, כי השביע את בני ישראל. The one who took Joseph's bones was Moshe. Moshe heard the call. Take my bones with you, don't forget me here. כי מפני השבועה שהשביע את בני ישראל לקחו בעצמו כאילו יוסף השביעו בזה. Moshe, who also represented all Am Israel because he was their leader, he was the one to take the bones. He was the one who felt that responsibility as being part of Bnei Israel. והנה, זכה יוסף שיעלה משה רבינו עליו השלום את עצמותיו באוכלוסה, ושכתוב את עצמות יוסף אשר העלו בני ישראל ממצרים קברו בשכם. Meaning, Yosef had the merit that Moshe, the leader of Am Israel, took his bones, and then all of Am Israel brought those bones when they entered the land of Israel, and they buried Yosef where? In Shechem, in Nablus. And it was really in the presence of hundreds of thousands of people. וכמו שדרשו רבותינו ז"ל, כנטילתה כך נטילתה. Now, before we continue, there is one point that I would like to clarify and to crystallize. Yosef was buried in Shechem. Yosef was sold in Shechem. Besides the full circle that Yosef is going through, I think there is something to his burial in Shechem. Shechem was a place of a lot of difficulties to Am Israel. The story of Dinah in Parashat Vayishlach that we read a few weeks ago was in Shechem. Yosef was sold in Shechem. And later on in Jewish history, the kingdom of Israel was split in Shechem. Yerovam, who came from the tribe of Ephraim, Ephraim was a son of Yosef, basically divided the kingdom in Shechem. So Shechem has a lot to do with divisions, with horrible stories. But there's also hope in that city. When Yosef's bones are returned to Shechem, in a way that this journey comes to somewhat of an end and some kind of a rest, Yosef is back to the same point that the entire story began. And then Rabbeinu Bachya continues and says, "Ve'alitem et atzmotai mizeh." What does it mean that you will bring my bones from here? It says, "Min hamakom hazeh," from this place. Meaning, I don't want to be in Egypt. I was sold here. Yeah, then I rise into power, but I know exactly where I belong. And if you remember, at the end of Parashat Vayechi that we read a few weeks ago, when Yosef introduces himself to the butler and to the baker, he says, "Ki gunov gunavti me'eretz ha'ivrim." I was taken from the land of the Hebrews. I'm not an Egyptian. Yes, I work here. Yes, I was in prison in here. Yes, now I'm second in command in Egypt. But Yosef never, ever lost his Abrahamic identity. He is a Hebrew. He came from the land of the Hebrews. He's part of Am Israel. He's a part of Yaakov's family. He never lost his identity. And then Rabbeinu Bachya brings another interpretation. יש שפירשו כי כל שבט ושבט העלו עצמות השבטים. כגון שתאמר שבט ראובן העלה עצמות ראובן אביהם, שבט יהודה העלה עצמות יהודה אביהם, וכן כל שבט ושבט. Which means Rabbeinu Bachya says that when Yosef says to Am Israel, bring my bones, he also says, bring my brother's bones as well, because don't forget, Reuven and Yehuda and Levi and Shimon, all of them died in Egypt. Who brought them back? Answer is that Joseph, when he made his brothers to take an oath to take him, each one of them basically made an oath to his children to take him and Joseph back to the land of Israel. And it's something very fascinating, because in a way, the way that they got to Israel, to Egypt, was each one of them in a different way. Joseph was sold, the brothers came because they were forced, they came back and forth, and at the end they were brought by Joseph. But when they come back, after their death, they come together. Sometimes it's a little sad to wait for the family to come together only after they are dead. But at least their children's children brought all of them together. The brothers themselves couldn't do it, but their descendants were able to reunite them. And that's Rabbeinu Bachya's opinion. The Midrash Tanchuma, our sages in Midrash Tanchuma around the 7th, 8th century, says the following: דבר אחר אמר להן, אבינו ירד כאן לרצונו ואני העליתי אותו בעל כורחו. משביעני עליכם, שממקום שגנבתוני, לשם תחזירוני. Basically, he says to them, I want you to take an oath that you will return me to the same place you stole me, or you took me. וכן עשו, שנאמר, ואת עצמות יוסף אשר העלו בני ישראל ממצרים קברו בשכם. There's also something very interesting there. If you remember, in Parashat Vayechi, Yaakov says to Yosef, הנה אחיך רועים בשכם, לך ואשלחך עליהם. Your brothers are shepherding their flock in Shechem, and I would like you to go and see how are they doing. לך ראה את שלום אחיך ואת שלום הצאן והשיבני דבר. Go see how your brother's doing, how is the flock, and return back with a report. That's what Joseph's mission, giving him to by Yaakov. Yosef had to see the Shlom Echav in Shechem, to see the harmony or the peace within his brothers in Shechem. And he was trying, but they didn't give him the opportunity. בטרם יקרב עליהם ויתנכלו אותו להמיתו. Before he even approached them, they already conspired to kill him. When the brothers will bring him back to Shechem, and they will bury him there, Yosef will be able to have some kind of closure, an idea of returning back to the place that I had a mission to try to see the peace from among my brothers, even though I knew that they really hate me. I failed then, but now I can create some kind of a correction, a fix to what happened before. In another midrash, in Tanchuma, they pick on this code that we mentioned before, pakod ifkod, God will surely redeem, which is obviously superfluous. You could say pakod once and not pakod ifkod. Says the midrash, וילך משה ואהרון ויאספו את זקני ישראל. After Hashem reveals himself to Moshe in the burning bush, and Moshe says to Aaron, this is the time for Exodus, and they go to the elders. אמר להם כך אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, פקוד פקדתי אתכם. So Moshe says to the elders of Israel, God said, פקוד יפקוד, פקוד פקדתי, I surely have redeemed you. סימן היה לישראל. That was a sign for עם ישראל. כל גואל שיבוא בסימן הזה, פקוד פקדתי, הם יודעים שהוא גואל של אמת. That was the code for redemption. Like a passcode. In order to open the gate for redemption, you need to know that the Redeemer should say, pakod yifkod. And who coined that code? Yosef. שכן אמר להם יוסף, ואלוקים פקוד יפקוד איתכם. כיוון שהזכיר להם פקוד יפקוד, מיד ויאמן העם. This is an incredible insight. And look at how history is being basically led by God. And what do I mean by that? Joseph was sold to Egypt by his brothers. Before he dies, he brings them together and he talks to them and to all Am Israel. And he says to them two things. Pakod ifkod Elokim etchem, God shall surely redeem you. You are going to go into a terrible, dark time in history. You're going to be slaves. You're going to be enslaved. Your baby boys will be thrown to the river. You're going to have a hard life, but don't forget, God will redeem you. Remember it and repeat it to your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and to all those descendants until Exodus. God will not abandon you. He did not abandon me either. He will surely redeem you. And when that time arrives, don't forget me. Basically, Yosef gives hope for generations to come. What his brothers didn't give him, he gives to all his brothers. He gives them hope, strength, optimism. He tells them, there is going to be a day you will be free. I'll be gone. All the tribes will be gone. All the brothers will be gone. But you continue. Am Israel is not about one person. Am Israel is about the people. And when you listen and when you hear someone who says that he was chosen to be your leader and your redeemer, and he will tell you that code, you should believe him. And the nation believed Moshe. Just imagine. Someone comes and says, oh, God reveals himself to me and he told me I'm going to save you. Who are you? But when Moshe says pakod ifkod or pakod pakadeti, the entire nation believes in him. Just imagine. For years and years and years, children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they hear this code and they believe in it. They believe in the most darkest times of Jewish history, when the enslavement was intolerable. They never lost hope that God shall surely redeem them. And if it's not them, it will be next generation. Joseph in his death is able to instill an incredible faith in redemption, salvation, hope, and vision. So now, with that in mind, let's compare it to the last request that King David had, which is really from the Haftarah of this Parashat of Vayechi. In Sefer Melachim, in the book of Kings, Kings A, 2nd chapter, the Tanakh describes the following: Vayikrevu yemei David lamut. David felt that he's about to die. Vayetzav et Shlomo bno le'emor, and he commanded his son Solomon, who will become the king, telling him, Anochi olech bederech kol haaretz vechazakta ve'ayita leish. I'm going to die, and I would like you to be strong and to be a man. Not only just to be a man, a grown-up man, but someone who is able to control his feelings, to overcome the evil inclination. ושמרת את משמרת השם אלוקיך ללכת בדרכיו. And I would like you to guard and to keep God's commandments, His path, לשמור חוקותיו, מצוותיו ומשפטיו ועדבותיו, ככתוב בתורת משה. I would like you to follow the Torah to its nth degree, למען תשכיל את כל אשר תעשה, so you will be smart and you will be successful in everything that you do, ואת כל אשר תפנה שם, and everything that you will do. למען יקים השם את דברו אשר דיבר עליי לאמור, אם ישמרו בניך את דרכם ללכת לפניי באמת, and I'm asking you to keep all God's commandments, so therefore Hashem will guarantee what He told me, that all the kings will come from my family. ללכת לפניי באמת בכל לבבם ובכל נפשם לאמור, לא יכרת לך איש מעל כיסא ישראל. So in order to secure the dynasty, the Davidic dynasty, you, King Solomon, you need to keep all the mitzvot, because if you will deviate, we're going to lose it. Until now, we are fine. What's the problem? The problem is the following. King David says to Solomon, וגם אתה ידעת, you know, את אשר עשה לי יואב בן צרויה. You know what Yoav did to me. אשר עשה לשני שרי צבאות ישראל, לאבנר בן נר ולעמסה בן יתר ויהרגם, וישם דמי מלחמה בשלום, ויתן דמי מלחמה בחגורתו אשר במותניו ובנעלו אשר ברגליו. Yoav ben Tzuria was my chief of staff. He murdered 2 other chief of staffs without them being guilty. And he did it for his own benefit, quote unquote. And I want you to do something that will take care of him, not in a good way. ועשית כחוכמתך ולא תורד שיבתו בשלום שאול. I trust you that you will use your wisdom to kill him. So that's the first one. Second one, ולבני ברזילי הגלעדי תעשה חסד, to the children of ברזילי הגלעדי, you should be really nice to them, you should have compassion towards them, and be kind to them. והיו באוכלי שולחניך כי כן קרבו אליי בבורחים מפני אבשלום אחיך. Because when I had to escape and to flee the country because Avshalom, my son, was chasing me and wanted to kill me, they were very good to me. So, reward them. והנה עמך שמי בן גרה בין הימינים מבחורים, והוא קיללני קללה נמרצת ביום לכתי מחניים. והוא ירד לקראתי הירדן וישבע לו בהשם לאמור עם עמיתך בחרב. There is another guy, Shimi ben Gera. Shimi ben Gera, when David had to flee the country because Avshalom was chasing him, Shimei, cursed David and insulted him. But when I came back, says David, I promised him that I'm not going to kill him. ואתה אל תנקהו. But you didn't promise him. So, כי איש חכם אתה, you are a smart man. וידעת את אשר תעשה לו, והורדתו את שיבתו בדם שאול. And you will be able to find a way to kill him somehow. וישכב דוד עם אבותיו, ויקבר בעיר דוד. And then David died, and he was buried in the city of David. When you think about this narrative that we just read, it's a bit puzzling. You would think that David will say to his son, the beginning, which means I expect you to be a man, to be strong, to be able to control yourself, to follow God's commandments. We would like the Davidic dynasty to continue, and there is a condition. We all need to follow God's Torah and not to deviate. Until here, it's great. But what is that? Basically, David asked Shlomo to kill 2 men and to reward 1 person. Is that what you say before you die? Now, I would like to suggest that the answer is yes. Because take a look at the following narrative. וימים אשר מלך דוד על ישראל 40 שנה. All the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. בחברון מלך 7 שנים. In Hebron he reigned for 7 years. He was the king for 7 years. ובירושלים מלך 33 שנים. And in Jerusalem he was the king for 33 years. ושלמה ישב על כיסא דוד אביו, and Shlomo sat on his father's throne, ותיכון מלכותו מאוד. And his kingdom was established, was cemented, was very strong. I think that when you compare Yaakov's death and last request to be buried in the land of Israel, Joseph's request to be buried in the land of Israel, and David's last request, you see something very interesting. When Yaakov asked Joseph to be buried in the land of Israel, what did he do? After he got that promise, he gave a blessing to each tribe. After Joseph asked his brothers to carry him into the land of Israel, as we said before, he didn't really ask only his brothers. He talked to Am Israel, to what we call Knesset Israel, the gathering of Israel for generations to come. He's not talking to the people who are currently in front of him. He's talking to the future generations. And now David is doing almost the same thing. He wants to bring the people together. Vatikon malchuto meod. And in that process, 2 people who took in a way the law to their hands, Yoav and Shimei, who was really, his behavior to David was more than insulting. They cannot be part of it. So they were rejected. But Barzilai HaGiladi and his descendants will be rewarded. In a way, David wanted to make sure that the Davidic dynasty continues on. And in order to make sure that it's being done, he had to be very clear about what does he want from Shlomo HaMelech to do. Very similar to what Yosef did. He was very clear. He told his brothers to tell their children and their children's children. There's going to be a process. Redemption is not an instant thing. And in that process, you're going to be enslaved, says Yosef to his brothers. Tell your children they are going to be enslaved. David says to Shlomo HaMelech, in order to achieve this kingdom, in order to achieve the continuity of the Davidic dynasty, there are some people who are really not going to be nice people, and you need to use your wisdom and somehow get rid of them. Yeah, it's not nice, but it's needed. In order for Vatikon Malchuto Me'od, that his kingdom was established and was cemented. The end of Parashat Vayechi basically described the end of the family of Yaakov the way we knew them from Sefer Bereshit. A family with a lot of family dynamic and drama. It ends with Yosef's death. And next week's Parsha, when we start a new book of Sefer Shmot, we are talking about Ve'ele Shmot Bnei Israel. These are the names of the children of Israel. We're not talking only about this individual and the other individual. We're talking about an Am. And an Am has a Torah and has a land and has king. And somehow, all of that needs to come together. Despite the diversity, despite the differences, despite the divisions, there is need to be something that holds us all together in order to create Vatikon Malchuto Me'od, to establish a kingdom. How do we find this common denominator? How do we try to bridge the gap between different groups? This is the task that we need to have in our hands. And with this task, we need to have tremendous faith of Pakod Ifkod, that God shall surely redeem us. But we also need to use Aseh kechochmatcha. Use your wisdom, use your talent, use your understanding of how you bring Am Yisrael together. And when we will get that formula, when we will get the right one, Vatikon Malchuto Me'od, Am Yisrael will be able to reach its potential and to really surely can see in front of our eyes, Ki pakod ifkod Elokim etchem, God shall surely redeem you. Thank you.